Okay, we got a change here. It's our Sprite movement. I got an update. I'm going to call it part 4. I was adding some other backgrounds and testing, playing around, just testing with stuff like I like to do. And I come across some problems with the code that I had showed to everybody. And I went in and I think I got it fixed. Nothing major, but I'll go through it. And in case you was using some of that code, we have a fix to it. So if I can get my mouse working again. All right, there we go. So I made some changes to that program. Might have been called Twist. I don't recall what it was. Anyway, this is the one I was using. I put a note up here at the front. Make sure you change the Sprite transparency color. Okay, because that's where that is and where in the problem lies. So we got the Sprite background most significant bits, the Sprite background color least significant, and both of them. So they need to look like this here, or hex 40 or 04 or 44 if there's two. Remember, each byte has 2 pixels in it. So there's not hardly any change to this code, but I will go through it as I find it. Okay, here again is another note. To change these 3 items down here, whatever your background color may be, that is the transparency color. In the case of what I'm using here, the sprites I'm using here, the background color uses register 0, so it's 0, 0. Take a very quick look at them sprites. Okay. In fact, what we might do is take the time to look at what I'm talking about. Okay. I've already got it all loaded, so we'll just run this here. All right. And you'll see, okay, we're using the same code before. It had the 2, we was using the 3 rockets that run across the screen. Well, we're using 3 things running across the screen and crossing. Other than it's a automated Sprite. Not a lot of automation, but it is automated. It's put a bit in there. So, and we'll do it with, again, just to make sure this is what we're talking about. All right, now here's our Sprite. Okay, we got 2 of them down here. We got A and B. Okay, if you see, you can actually look in here. If you kind of look in there, you can see this 0, E, 0, E, 0, E all the way down and across the E's. That's the plus sign in our Sprite. And up here, if you look, these E's, they kind of diagonal across here. That's the X part. That gives it the movement. And so, but most of our background you'll see is hex 0, 0. Okay. Down here, hex 0, that's the transparency color that I was talking about above. So we'll get back up there to the top. And I changed it to be all zeros because that's what it is. Okay, so there's not much code changed in here. If you looked at this or did something with it, there's very little change in this program. Here was a change. We have to know which Sprite was going to use. We're going to use either B or A, and it's to tell the routine which one we're using. We're using the plus or the X part of it. Remember when I first did this, we had in one of these we drew a line so we could tell where it was at. So anyway, we got 2 buffers. One's displaying A and one's displaying B. Okay, so that's all the same. The only thing that's changed down here is when we actually do the display. Okay, blitter method with transparency. Enter with the save area pointing to register X. Okay, so remember we got to do our restore, so X is in there, loaded that up there. Here again, we decide which buffer we're using. We're using 1 or 2. Same stuff as before. We don't get any changes till we get down here to this loop 1. Okay, we're going to get the new character. Okay, and that's the very first character in the Sprite we looked at below. Okay, in this case here, the very first one was that background color 0, 0. We get the very first one and bump that register. Now we're going to compare it to our Sprite background color both. Over at the top we had The example one was 40 and 04 and 44, and that real one is all 0. So we're going to compare it and see if that matches. If it does match, we'll fall through right here. Just a branch not equal, we'll take the branch. If it is the background color, it's a transparency. We'll get the old one off what's on the screen right now. We'll get the old one. We'll store it for our restore, because we'll have to restore it later on, and branch to something called skip both. And skip both just is our for I equal, for j equal loops. Okay, we're done. That's all we do. If it's a transparency color, we're done. If we don't, no, that's not correct. If they don't match, we'll take this branch down to here, and here's a note that says split and check them separately. Separately spelled wrong, that's okay. Remember, we got 2 pixels in there, so we got to look at each one. And this is one way of doing it. There's other ways of doing this, but I figure if you're a beginner, this might be very understandable. We're going to split it. We're going to get the most significant bits and store them. We're going to get the least significant bits and store them. We'll get the old character off the screen. We'll save it for our restore. We're going to split it into old MSB and old LSB. Now we'll do our compares. Get the new MSB, compare it to our Sprite background. Again, like it is, if it's a transparency color, if it's not, we'll branch down here. If it is, we'll use the old one. Very simple. We're going to use one or the other, and we're all done. We'll order them back together, whether it be new or old, and store them and do our loop. That's the change. The change was right in this area here. So this corrected because it wasn't doing. Didn't have this compare correct down here. The restore didn't change. All this other stuff. None of that changed. That's it. That is the change and improvement. Now there is other ways of doing what I did here, but I think if you're beginning and trying to figure this out, this splitting this and saving it, we could do some ORs, some ANDs, some exclusive ORs, use mask, and maybe get some speed out of this here. But you can work on that in the future. Right now, this here I think is understandable, splitting these into different pieces and comparing them. Okay, with that, that's the extent of this. So if I may, we'll do this, and we'll run this thing again. And each one of these, you'll be able to see it coming through there. And I've got it slowed down. Okay, what we're going to do here is, well, it's not slowed down, it's the normal speed. I'll run, it says slow down, so you can watch it as it goes through there. And we've got 2 buffers, and we got Sprite A and B, and each time they just alternated on the screens. So kind of simple to automate it, and there's very simple automation. There's only 2 sprites. If you really want something like somebody kicking a ball or catching or running, you could have more than 2, but we're just using 2. Okay, let's back to normal speed. I got 1 or 2 more examples I'll show you here, and we'll be out of here. Slowing it down, this will really slow it down. But it gives you the idea what we're talking about. I just happen to know where this is at. All right, this is just about as fast as it gets. You know, it's kind of hard to see anything, but that's with almost no delay. There's still a little bit of delay in there, but very, very little delay in there. Back to normal speed. Anyway, I hope this helps straighten out, and if you were trying this stuff and was maybe having some problems, that might be what the cause was. I located it just by accident. Okay, so anyway, we're going to zap this and we're done. So we are, if I can find my last screen, we are done.